I welcome you all to this session of Raibandha Talks. We are very fortunate to have amidst us as our guest speaker today, a man with a rich experience of over 25 years in technology, in India as well as overseas. He has 5 patents registered in the US, Europe and Japan. He's also the man behind Mahindra's new 6-speed automatic transmission Scorpio Hybrid and the new Ingenio MPV. Recently, he has been appointed as chairperson of India's 350 crore National Hybrid Platform Program. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Dr. Arun Jaura, CEO. Advanced Technologies in Mumbai. He was the Senior Vice President R&D and Global Product Development in the group's automotive sector for close to 3 years before taking up this role. Dr. Jaura has received the prestigious Henry Ford Technology Award in 2004 for the world's first hydrogen engine propelled hybrid vehicle. Apart from several successful product launches and initiatives whilst in the automotive sector, Dr. Jaura has enabled the Mahindra Group create a mark in Southeast Asia in the green space of sustainable mobility solutions with his work on hybrids, hydrogen and biodiesel. As part of his new role, Dr. Jaura formulates and implements technology strategy for the Mahindra Group. This includes work on advanced technology projects, development of hybrid vehicles and hydrogen technology for Mahindra's auto sector. Today, Dr. Jaura will be sharing with us his invaluable knowledge on innovation, technology and business practices to enable carbon dioxide mitigation.
CO2 mitigation and all that. And today I'm glad that I can share some of my thoughts with you. And feel free to raise your hand and ask the question whenever you feel like, and let's make it a dialogue rather than a monologue. I understand some of you have to leave for classes, and absolutely fine. If you have to just slip out, it's okay with me. Maybe at the back. In today's world, what you have to look at is, everybody talks about innovation, everybody talks about technology, everybody talks about business practices. So how can you actually synergize various aspects? There are many factors. These are the key ones. And the way you look at it is, there is so much of innovation happening. You talk about the nano effect, you talk about technology, you talk about simple devices, simple chairs to hybrids and hydrogen and all these technologies. And this is just in the area of technology, of automotive. But there's a lot happening and a lot that people are looking at in terms of CO2, right? You guys have seen CO2 in your articles. Every day you see there's a lot of articles. There's a lot of discussions. In fact, I was in Potsdam, which is a very historic city, where the big three actually sat down during the Second World War and decided on what they have to do in terms of going forward strategies. So we were there. It was a historic moment where the Indian government was there. I was part of the delegation. And then we had the European Union people sit there And across the table, we talk about CO2 norms. The West is pushing us, and I use intentionally the word pushing us, to adopt norms that they think are reasonable, whereas what we say is we have the right, and I can say that very blatantly, we have the right to grow, we have the right to the resources, and we are nowhere near in terms of where they are in terms of CO2. So with that little thing, let me start off. What is the ground zero reality today? There are 500 to 600 million fellow Indians that actually live without electricity. We are the lucky few who have this. Over 75% of the household energy consumption is for basic human needs of cooking, traditional biomass, primary cooking fuel for over 700 million people. Sad, but it's true. And this is very, very sad. Let's put it that way. 24.7 to let's say 80% population below the income level of $1 to $2 straight. So how can we all work together to uplift this section of people? And how can we find ways to actually save energy so that everybody else can use it, just not us? See, there's a lot of electrical noise, and that's okay. Now, I'm not going to go through the graph, but what this thing has to highlight is the government is going to be spending about $2.53 trillion in the next, let's say, 30 years towards CO2. So this is an area, you can look at it two ways. It's an area of opportunity, or you can say the businesses have to invest so much money and really take everything forward. But I would say as an industry, I think it's an area of opportunity for all of us. And there are companies who actually use this as an opportunity to help the society, not just make money. Of course, it helps your bottom line. But how can you actually help the society with this? Now, the gap here, what I would say you kind of pay attention to is the gap. The smaller the gap, the better it is for us. As we go forward, 06, 07, you see the gap is widening. How can we reduce the gap? How can we actually adapt technology? How can we use the taxpayers' money to reduce this very quickly? Now everybody complains, passenger cars, transportation. If you look at the Delhi government, they wanted to ban all diesel cars. They don't want any diesel cars. They want to make everything electric. We talk about everybody, they say, CO2 is bad. We talk to the EU, they say you guys are bad. We talk to the US, they say you guys are bad. But look at this bar graph. We're the smallest. We are a small fish and they're also big fish. Now, we can debate this and say, no, this is not what it is. Actually, if you see the vehicle, then there's a lot more CO2. But this is an average of all kind of passenger transportation. But the message that you take away from here is that whatever said and done, the noise that the EU or the US is making, we are much lower than them in terms of CO2. Now, as auto manufacturers and as a customer, what is my demand? What are our demands to the auto manufacturers? Everybody wants high mileage. Whenever you buy a vehicle, whether it's two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, I'm sure not four-wheeler, four-wheelers or two-wheelers. You say, how many miles do I get? First question. Even if it's a used car, you want to know how many miles you get. What is the mileage? Favorite question. Then you want to be able to go very fast, maybe, but it has to have good stability, good handling. You don't want to be tossed around in a vehicle. A lot of people complain if they sit in a Scorpio, I get tossed around from one seat to the other, it rolls so much. You also want to make a lifestyle statement. A lot of people buy green cars and say, I'm driving a green car, it's emitting less fuel, it's using more fuel on me. Somebody will drive a Scorpio and say, wow, I drive a Scorpio. I talk about Scorpio because I'm from Manchester, and I love my vehicle. So, somebody might say, I drive an Indica, I love it, for whatever reason. But you also want to make a lifestyle statement from the car that you drive, or the vehicle that you drive. You want a comfortable ride? Sort of covers the high speed handling and stability, but comfortable ride is different. You can have very bumpy roads. So, can my suspension give me the right kind of comfort when I'm riding in that? You want good traction. You don't want the vehicle to kind of sway away. Actually, this one. Unless you guys you are fine, that little noise keeps us away. Keeps me away. Traction, you want good traction. And I could sort of sense it when I made a turn near the church and I saw the river. I asked the driver what he said, this is the river overflowing, and it's Aram se But traction is something that you're looking for. Good NVH, good noise. You don't want noise, you don't want vibration, you don't want your vehicle to be like rattling when you're there. So this is a customer demand actually. Good maneuverability. And of course you want safety and balance. So these are the demands from customers. You are the customer. When I actually look at my vehicle, I see whether I have all this. So if I as a customer can look at all this, and I have to kind of imbibe this in my design and not development, and I take the vehicle outside. So let's talk about innovation. There are a couple of simulations I'll show you at the end of the talk. Why do we have to innovate? Doesn't hard work actually? When everyone works hard, innovation is differentiated. So let's say we have 6 cars lined up. Why would somebody buy a Logan? It's a Mahindra Renault product. There has to be a differentiator. You have an SX4, you have a Desire, you have a Logan, you have an Indigo, or whatever. The customer will buy a vehicle with a differentiator. Why would you come to GIM? Why not go to another school? Because there are some differentiators here, there are some differentiators here. So when you actually innovate, and when we have these products on the road, we have to make sure we have differentiators in these products. And that's why you need innovation. You need ingenuity. And that's a word that sort of we are working very closely with. You have to rediscover innovation. You have to innovate processes. You have to innovate products. And you have to innovate customer delight. And that is the wow factor we call it. Because when you actually sit in a vehicle and you look at something and you hold the steering wheel and you say, wow, that is what we are looking for from a customer. And that is the factor we want to get. That is the differentiator. Now, even if you're on a kinetic Honda, for example, or a two-wheeler, and you kind of just push the throttle, you say, wow, this is so heavy. It just takes off, right? So that is something that creates customer delight. And to do that, we have to innovate the product. And to do the product, we have to innovate the process. So this is like a chain. Okay? So when I'm talking about CO2, it's not that unique entity that's driving on the road that is impacting CO2. The whole ecosystem is impacting CO2. How I design it, how I manufacture it, what sort of paints I'm using, what sort of ventilation processes I'm using, how much of electricity I'm using in my plant. Everything adds up. So you have to actually do the total math, the total equation that will actually form the CO2. So it's not just as industry or as automotive manufacturer that Mahindra has to do something. It's also my seat supplier, my tire supplier, my design supplier, my engineering services supplier who is working with me to design the vehicle. Everybody pitches in to help reduce CO2. So we've got to be in the correct order. So if you look at the x-axis, being an engineer, I really need to draw a graph of the whole style. I know how many engineers are here in this audience. Nevertheless, what you see here is the x-axis and the y-axis. If you are in this quadrant, you are a tactical follower. Sort of reactive. Because Tata did Nano, we got to do something. Because Mahindra did a Scorpio, somebody else has to do something. So you're sort of a tactical follower, or you'll say, you know what, actually this company has come out with this feature on this motorbike, so I need to add this new feature. So you're in the second quadrant. Then, this quadrant, the third quadrant, that is the firefighting and problem solving quadrant. Most of the industry, just not the automotive, but most of the industry has been in this quadrant for very long. In India, I'm talking about the Indian industry. Even today, there are a lot of industries who are in this quadrant, which is not the right quadrant again. Then there are players in this quadrant that are proactive, they do incremental stuff. Add this feature to the vehicle, add this feature to this, add this feature to the microwave oven, But is that actually going to make a difference for you in the bottom line? In the long run? Short distance, yes. You get all these birds, you'll be happy. But if you are in the first quadrant, where you actually attain strategic escape velocity. That is good enough. That's where you got to be. And if you look at it as a group or as a company, I'm just talking again specific to Mahindra, we have the largest green footprint of vehicles. We do electric vehicles, we do hybrid vehicles, we do biodiesel, we do hydrogen, we do CNG, we do LPG. All these vehicles were on display and ride and drive at the 2008 Auto Expo in Delhi. So we are in that. So we say, okay, when it comes to green mobility, we are in that space, we are leading. So what is your USP? How can you make it work? That's something that you have to always keep thinking as a business. And if you're not in the right quadrant, then what happens is it will hurt you really bad. And in very loose terms, party paid make your atma. Sorry, you don't understand what you have to say. You have to be careful because there is so much pressure around you in terms of industry and competition that you can get hurt real bad. And there are a lot of companies. Look at, there are examples in India. Look at Ambassador, look at Premier Funding. These brands, we were all probably growing up, were probably not even born. These brands were there. Today, you don't see them much. Ambassador, you just have like same version coming back again. They did not change the time. They did not go into that innovation quadrant. And they died. And it's just not in India, again, overseas, although there are many industries that have actually shut down and gone. It's okay. What is happening is the customer is also changing. And there's a lot of change in the customer. If I can run this video, it would be really good to see this. I think give it a shot. And, I love the video, I want to share it with you, but provided I can run it. Okay, we'll try again at the end, so I don't waste your time. The customer is changing. If you see 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, it was always like this, If there's a child at home, the woman has to stay home, take care, cook, then go to work, right? And then come back running and then say, come and cook and clean, take care of the child at home. But if you see in the last 5 years, men are starting to take care of home, at least partially. Men get to the kitchen and start cleaning and stuff. They help, after dinner, the guy puts up, and I do that. Bring it to the kitchen and my wife puts it in the fridge and all that stuff. Right? This is actually changing. A lot of, if you look at the younger generation, which is you and maybe a little older than you guys, there are a lot of people who start doing it. So the mechanism change. Look at the cell phone. The guy who sells vegetables, he has a cell phone. The guy with the rickshaw has a cell phone. We have a big difference in society and life. So the world has changed so much. The customer expectation has changed quite a bit. Internet has played a big role in our lives. Very big role. The guy sitting in Detroit or sitting in Düsseldorf or sitting in Tokyo, he walks into a car showroom, looks at a Lexus or looks at a BMW, understands the features, sends an email to his brother or sister or kith and kin here, and the guy sitting in Goa walks into the Mahindra dealership and says, do you have this feature in your car? Right? And then the person at the sales, the marketing, he doesn't know what it is. Then he notes it down very diligently and then sends an email to people like me. Why don't we have this feature? And these are realities. Then, they come, okay, why do we have electronic stability control in our vehicle? Do I actually need electronic stability control in India? No, but yeah, so the customer is very well aware of what is interested. Do I have heated seats, cooling seats? No, I don't have it. But a vehicle has some issue. So what the internet has done is sort of brought everybody on the same platform, same page. And that makes a big difference. And it's in every industry. I keep taking the automotive example for whatever reason, but it's in every industry. So the customer has changed. That makes us change the way we look at products, the way we do engineering, the way we do development in any area of the industry. Today's on my day. Ah, there it is. There's no audio, but lights off. Just in front. Yeah, that's fine. Any and every global brand in India, you go buy it. See that? It flashes the cell phone, so happy. Every change presents an opportunity. Well, what are energy options? When we talk about energy, that's fine. So what are energy options? One is the favorite or bicycle. Keeps us healthy also. Keeps all the muscles and nervous system and circulation system going. Then you have biofuel. Talk about biofuel, biodiesel, ethanol, etc. Then you have solar energy. Talk about solar panels. So these are the energy options. Just kind of walking you through them. Then you have the wind power. You have hybrids, plug-in hybrids. I'm sure you know what plug-in hybrids are. We'll talk about it. We'll probably spend a few minutes talking about that. And then you have fuel cell vehicles. So from the conventional two-wheeler, robust vehicles, you have all these energy options. Now, whether they are economically viable, sustainable, is a question that we have to revisit and ask ourselves. Then you have fuel cell bikes. Very slick looking, fantastic bike. Costs about 750,000 pounds. Not very expensive, right? But I'm sure, over the years it's going to come down. This is how the package is. Very, very nicely done. There are probably 5 prototypes like this all over the world. It's under double. Then you have fuel cell cars, which is about $1 million a car. But can we afford it? No. And all these cars are funded by government agencies in the US, Europe, or Japan. In India, we have not reached that stage yet. But we have a hydrogen energy board. We have a 20-year plan. But we say by 2020, we'll have 1 million hydrogen vehicles on the roads. Then you have hybrids. You have the STF hybrid. You have the Toyota Prius. These are just some things. And then we have the hybrid Scorpio. Honda launched a Civic hybrid last month in Delhi. It's about 21.5 lakhs, 22 lakhs. And about 58 have been sold so far. Their target is about 100 vehicles this year. But mostly owned by institutions, by a few big guys who want to actually make a green statement. I talk about lifestyle statements. Some of them. But is that technology affordable? Is it actually mass market deployable? And it's just not a product in the marketplace. It's also the back end, the whole thing, the holistic thing you've got to see. You've got to see the service end, the back end, the tier ones, the suppliers that you have, then your sales and marketing people, your engineering people to support it. Then your biofuels. Mahindra, like I said, is working on a biofuel program. All our vehicles that roll down the plant are B5, which is 5% blend compatible, B10 and B100. These are different blends of biofuel in the B. Then you have electric vehicles. That's our PhD. We have them, people who have gone to Vaishnav Devi or who've been to Pondicherry and all that. You'll see a lot of our vehicles there. Now, the challenge here is, if everybody sitting in this room had an electric vehicle, probably your grid will not be able to take that load. Because you will come on an electric bike, but you will be walking back. And the reason for that is you want to plug in your vehicle when you come to work or come to study or for your classes. But do we have enough power points? Do we have enough energy capacity? And this is just an example here. I mean, we'll talk about a building, office building, where there are 500 people. If everybody came in an electric car, will we have enough energy to actually charge these so that they can go back? That is a challenge. And if you heard about this, the Israeli government has announced a $100 million program where the Israeli government, Renault, and a few other people are working together to make it a business model in Israel. They're telling, if you want to put money on the table, let's make it happen together. Mahindra has an electric vehicle program. This is a hybrid vehicle, and you can get different kind of hybrid vehicle. What's a hybrid vehicle? It is a vehicle that has a conventional engine and transmission, and also has electric motors and batteries. So you can drive it by either source or together. And the advantage there is you get more fuel economy. When you are at a traffic light, when you are at a green light or you're stuck in traffic, you actually, your vehicle, when it stops, your engine stops. So you're not idling, you're not burning fuel, you're not emitting pollutants, so you save that energy. And when you actually apply brakes, all that energy is captured and dumped into your battery. So it's self-sustaining, so you actually don't have to plug in your vehicle when you come to work or you go home or whatever. It's self-sustaining. And then you can put a smaller engine and a smaller motor, because when you want to overtake a truck or something, just press a gas pedal and it will take off. It'll give you that extra pedal. Talking about hybrids propelled by hydrogen engines. And then fuel cell vehicles, of course. This is our hydrogen vehicle. Somebody can, sarcastically ask, three-wheeler guy doesn't have money to buy food, bring to the table. You're making a hydrogen vehicle. The idea is not that. The idea is, if we can get a mass market solution and be on the forefront of hydrogen technology, then come one day when hydrogen infrastructure is available, we will be there to provide an affordable solution. Now, this is a challenge, and this is a real challenge. I'm sure you've seen similar photographs, right? Here you actually overload. So as engineers and technologists, we have to design something like this. And people who are in finance and who do the numbers and, for lack of a better word, bean counters, sorry, no offense, you will say, why have you to design a vehicle, which makes sense, okay? Why should I design a vehicle for maybe 2% of the population who is going to overload this vehicle like this? This is because there's a lot of material cost that actually goes into designing this vehicle. Can we have regulations that will prevent people from doing this? Now, the fact is, there are regulations, but are we enforcing them? Or are we actually dumping all the pressure on the automotive manufacturer and saying, no, you guys have to do this? But at the end of the day, if we can't avoid this, then we're adding cost. We're adding burden to the larger market and the customer by just overloading and designing vehicles for this sort of emissions. We talk about lightweight materials, we talk about aluminum, we talk about titanium, we talk about plastics. There's quite a bit of that material is coming in the vehicle. What is the advantage of a lightweight material? If you're going to be driving about 160,000 kilometers through the line, and if your vehicle is lighter by about 7 or 10%, let's say, you will save over the life 300 liters. So 300 into 50 rupees now, right? It's about that. So that much money you save, that's money in your pocket. Now that's a rosy picture. But to put lightweight material, 100 kilograms on the vehicle, it's a lot of money, a lot of effort. Because the cost of your vehicle will go up by so much. So that's a trade-off, that's a balance that we have to keep. There's so much plastic coming in the vehicle, so much plastic. Worldwide, if you look at BMW or you look at Renault or Toyota, they have a lot more. Toyota and BMW have the largest amount of plastic, about 11 to 13%. Whereas Indian automotive manufacturers are still hovering at 5 to 6%. That's because plastics haven't actually come in to that extent in India. And if you look at plastics, this is how they have grown over the years. in the area of electrical, electronics, exterior, and interiors. But if you look at our vehicles, most of the plastic is inside. And the biggest complaint that most of the customers have is our vehicle is too plasticky. I'm not M&M vehicle, but generally, when you sit in a vehicle, it's too plasticky. I get that feel, that smell. Can we make it better? That's the question. Can we put more exterior plastic in our vehicles? Now talk about Indian automotive manufacturers, not the overseas. Electronics. There's so much electronics in your vehicle today. Much more than what was there 5 years ago. Talk about airbag, you talk about climate control, you talk about radio entertainment, everything. You want to actually be sitting in your vehicle, let's say you have an Innova or whichever vehicle. Co-driver want to listen to music. Then co-driver wants to listen to some of the music, so he or she sticks in a USB, puts in a headphone. Kids, suppose they're sitting in the back, they want to play on video games. So all this electrical energy has to come from your batteries, from your vehicle. Now, what are the energy conservation solutions? Without getting into the technical details, if we make smaller motors, you save a lot of electrical energy. You have electronic energy meters that reduce wasted energy. I'm sure people are getting into that. If you actually see in Europe, they have green building norms that have come into place, and you as an owner of a green building will get a better rate when it comes to property tax and real estate taxes. So which means you have an advantage. You can rent out that building to your tenants at a lesser cost, which means you'll have more tenants coming to your building, versus some other building which is not green. So this is becoming a reality, and so people are looking at different ways to make greener buildings. Talk about HD TVs and other home electronics that can save you, which have 90% energy efficiency. Portable devices. Talk about telecom. Too much detail here, but just thought of that you guys should know what different solutions that exist. Again, talking about your home, you can have application, personalization, content, complete ecosystem can be electronic based. You can have a lot of ways to save electricity and to save energy. Actually, there is more of energy saving than just electricity. So CO2 requires a level of revolution in business. It's a totally different way of looking at business. It's a lot of investment required. You might put in $10 million today, or you might put 50 crores rupees today. But over a period of time, it will give a lot of returns. Let me give you an example. Today, if you have to actually sell a vehicle in Europe, there are CO2 norms. If you are, let's say, if we are, including myself as a customer, buying a vehicle which does not meet CO2 norms in certain countries, I have to pay 700 euros as a one-time tax to the government. So when I'm going to buy a vehicle, it was 10,000 euros, I'm paying 10,700 euros. 700 euros is approximately 50,000 bucks. Now, the government says, the EU regulations say that starting 2012, if they've defined a limit, if your CO2 is not that much, then for every gram of CO2 that is more, you have to pay about 30 euros per gram. So if I, as an automotive manufacturer, am above that line by 10 grams, then I'm paying 300 euros. That's a fine to the government. So now I look at it differently. If I'm selling 100,000 vehicles in Europe, and I'm paying 300 euros fine on every vehicle that I sell, then the way I look at business is very different. I say, 300 into 100,000, so many million euros. Is it worth doing business in Europe for me? So the whole bottom line changes. The way you look at business changes. The way you look at mechanisms to mitigate and reduce your sustainability challenges completely changes. And that's where experts like you guys come in, all the management experts. So now today you see gas guzzlers are still selling in the US. If you look at a magazine, every magazine that you pick has this green speed, green technology, green economy. Every magazine, whether it's Newsweek or it's Economist, or even you pick up the India Today. The government announced this policy, I would say about 5 weeks ago. You folks are all budding management experts going to come out, graduate school, right? Most of you graduating this year, next year. It's the right time. You have to start looking at sustainability and CO2. That's a phenomenal domain of business activity. There are two universities in the world who offer an MBA in sustainability. One is in UK, one is in the US. This is an area people are looking for experts in this domain. So this is an area to kind of really look at closely, besides whatever you're looking at. Then you talk about green leaders and green laggards. We don't even show this at India. You're somewhere at 100 plus. By the way, US is also not in the first 50. Somewhere at 30, first 40, somewhere at 38 or so. Switzerland stands at number one. Can you see the famous G8? George Bush is lost as usual, he doesn't know what to do, confused. No offense if somebody is. So this is what the G8 summit leaders are saying, let's plant trees, let's look at sustainability, let's look at CO2. This is just last month. So what's CO2, right? Everybody talks CO2. We'll spend maybe 30 seconds on this. All of us breathe out CO2. Right? Plants use CO2 during photosynthesis. Very basic. CO2 is produced when a carbon-based fuel or coal is burnt. And in India, we burn a lot of coal. Every fuel that we use is a carbon-based fuel. Including hydrogen, of course. Now this is interesting. CO2 is measured in parts per million and reflects the cumulative impact of carbon emissions for as much as 200 years previously. So today, what the value that we see is over 200 years. CO2 accounts for 75% of the overall greenhouse gases. 16% of the global man-made emissions come from motor vehicles. So 84% comes from other variants. But everybody beats up the transportation and the mobility guys because these are the low-hanging fruit. So you can see cars and trucks and buses and everything now. So everybody starts beating it up. Now, this is an interesting thing. Pre-industrial level of CO2 were at 280. Today we are at 380. If it didn't do anything, it will reach 550 very soon. By 2050. So we have to look at adapting techniques, technologies to mitigate this. And yeah, by the way, the vehicle manufacturers, the automobile manufacturers are among the top 50 R&D investors investing, looking at adapting, mitigating techniques for CO2. Simulation doesn't work, so I'm going to just kind of skip that. This is more relevant to you folks since you are all management experts. E7 is heading, E7 is emerging economies, it will be greater than the G8 by 25 to 95%. Who are the E7? China, India, Brazil, Russia, Mexico, Indonesia, and Turkey. This is interesting. Chinese economy could overtake the US economy in 2016. It will be around 23% larger in 2025, 43% larger by 2050. So the Chinese are becoming a very, very strong entity in the US. So these are one of the two poles that are actually slowly kind of getting larger now. The Indian economy could rise up to more than half the US economy by 2025 and about the same time in 2050. Brazil today is comparable to Germany and it will be by 2025 and Japan by 2050. Okay, this is interesting. Talk about Europe doing this norms. 120 grams per CO2 per kilometer. By 2020 to 95. Today everybody is around 170, 150. Every gram of CO2 is very, very difficult to reduce. Let me tell you that. Making 1 gram, 5 grams of CO2 less, it's a lot of effort that goes in. Again, it's not just massaging the vehicle and getting 5 kilograms or 5 grams. It's the whole ecosystem that has to go together. Japan is talking about 16.8 kilometers per liter by 2015. So per liter, I should be able to deliver so many kilometers. The US is talking about 30 miles to a gallon by 2020. For gasoline engines, of course, they're talking, every 100 kilometers you should be able to do in 5 minutes. So can we do that? If you look at the CO2 norms, T8 is at 139 grams per kilometer today. Whereas Porsche is at 300. And Porsche is the worst hit, by the way. You see a lot of news articles coming on Porsche vehicles. Volvo is 195. We guys in India, I didn't put it here, we show some idea. Between 250 and 300. That's a lot of penalties if you look at it. And then if you look at the other side, on the right side, we have to come to 120 by 2012. Talk about fines. Let's look at the red one here. I have to pay about 20 euros per gram per kilometer. First you have 2012, and as it goes on, 35, and then it becomes 60, and then by 2015, if you don't do it, it's 95 euros. So you don't even have to do business in Europe. You can't meet the CO2 law. What it says is we have to have very different business practices and business things. It's just not technology that's going to make it happen. So everything has to work together. Technology, the innovation, and the business practice. And that is the challenge. We don't even have the business practices today. Nobody wants to talk about it. And I'm not just creating a hype in the room on CO2. It is actually a challenge. And that's an emerging field of business. We're not even talking about carbon offsets or anything at this point. If you look at this, you're saying increasing fuel economy of 2 billion vehicles from 30 miles to gallon to 60 miles. And this is a study that one of the consultants did in conjunction with the UN agency. What M says is, there's a medium possibility of having it. Okay. So decrease number of vehicles from 10,000 kilometers to 5,000 for 2 billion. I mean, can it happen actually? It can happen if you do a mass transportation system. You have buses, you have mass rapid transport, you have trains. In India, we are not there yet, but a lot of cities are starting looking at it. Can we actually reduce 20%, 25% energy usage? Possibility is high and medium. I'm just focusing on the green ones here. Now, this is something that India is very closely looking at. The policy statement and the planning commission is seriously looking at the solar photovoltaic stuff. The cost has gone from 54 cents to 21 cents. And many, many companies are spending billions of dollars even in India today on solar energy. That's another prospective area of business opportunity. And we talk about just not only photovoltaic cells, but also solar concentrators. So you actually can use it, you can run your motor turbines and everything. And can we actually do this? Very difficult. Today, fuel cells are very expensive. Very expensive. So that's why it's a low possibility of that, making that happen. What are the challenges? When you have to actually do a product, develop it takes a lot of time. A lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources. Resources will be money and people. You don't have the right skill set available. Today you have about 250,000 engineers graduating every year from India in the colleges. But how much of that is the right pool of people that you can actually pull in directly to your engineering institution and industry? And how much of that actually goes to the IT? How much of that actually goes into some other industry? Today, the IT companies are also starting to do engineering for them. They say, you know what, let's do engineering. I'm doing software anyway. So why can't I do software for the engine that can control the engine? So they want to start doing that as well. You want to add that piece of the whole thing. So basically, as you see at second year, third year level, all these folks are signed up by IT industry. Without the students realizing that may not, I won't say that may not be the best opportunity for them in the long run. And 80 out of 100 cases it happens that that's not the best thing they wanted to do. They just took it for the sake of money. A lot of them do that. And if you do new fuels, you do hydrogen, you do biofuels, you need infrastructure for that. I mean, the planning commission has been working a lot on biofuels. They came up with policy, now they're actually pulling back the policy because people are abusing it. People are buying land, corporates, a lot of people, we are going to cultivate jatropha, so they get subsidized land. They do something there, do some experiments, and nothing actually has come out of it for so long. Today, biodiesel at 60 rupees a liter. The government says, you know what, we are going to do it for 25 rupees a liter. We are going to subsidize it, provided this happens. That is not taking traction. It's been about 4 years now. It was in the news. I'm sure you guys have seen that. New fuels must be truly sustainable. I mean, although every vehicle that rolls off M&M's production line is biofuel compatible, can we actually run a biodiesel vehicle in Goa? I don't know. Because there might be just one station who might have biofuel. So what is the point in buying a biofuel vehicle? Just to make a license in India, I have a biofuel vehicle. Not sure. Consumers buy vehicles to meet their needs, and their needs vary. I might buy a vehicle for something, my needs are different. You might buy it for something, but you might buy it for something, but you might buy it for something. So this is the challenge. Can I commonize 80% of the needs? There must be affordable. You can't buy a hydrogen vehicle, which is very expensive. Or you can't buy a hybrid vehicle, which is 22 lakhs. Why would you buy one when you can actually buy a regular one for 15 lakhs? Stable, predictable political and fiscal environment is necessary for this. The government is going to put a lot of money. I mean, we'll start having bomb blasts every year, like last 2 weeks. People are going to get shaky. The investors, the overseas partners, the governments, everybody's going to get shaky. I mean, our country will get shaky. Why would we do that? And the worldwide action is, of course, necessary. Everybody has to pitch in, I would say. Just not Indians or not Europeans or not Americans. So what can be done? R&D, research on alternative fuels. Policies to encourage alternative fuels, fuels infrastructure, talk about incentives, talk about congestion mitigation, consumer eco-driving, the congestion mitigation. About 7% of our GDP is wasted in congestion, traffic congestion. Whereas in advanced countries, about 3.3% is wasted. Hard to believe that's the reality. Can we actually reduce that? Can we actually put a congestion tax on it? People have done it. London has done it. I'm sure you know that. You can't actually park your vehicle. If you come from outside and you want to park there, they charge you a congestion tax. Plus, they charge you very high parking fees. People actually, they discourage people to drive into the city. You take the train, you take the bus, you take whatever. Then you talk about consumer eco-driving. A lot of us like, at your age especially, like to go fast and then apply brakes and want to show that breath and keep pressing the floor, and then is that actually helping you? No, it's not helping the environment, it's not helping you because you're spending a lot of money on fuel. You're burning so much fuel. So there are many ways of eco-driving that people like to consider. Then there are consortiums, there are programs. This is one such example. In the EU, they have this program on CO2, cooperating on the CO2, essentially. I'm not going to walk through this, just kind of give you a glimpse of what it is. Looking at the short term, you're talking about medium term and long term. What technologies can come into vehicles, what sort of things can we do, and how everybody partners to make things happen. Now, is it a crystal ball or anyone's best? You don't know. So today, if all of us had $1 billion each sitting in this room, we don't know what is going to go. Is it solar energy? Is it nuclear? Is it going to be wind? We don't know. So it's anybody's bet today. Or if you don't have all that, you probably have this. Go back to the animal machine era. Very popular in the countryside. That's the best they can afford. Which is fine too. I mean, there is a transportation need. That tells us that there is transportation need. Can we actually make something sustainable for people? What I'm saying is energy options will coexist until then and later. So you have wind energy, you have solar, you have plug-in hybrids, you have biofuel, and whatever. Because today as consumers, we are all very health conscious and इसमें कितना carbohydrates and all that. We look at nutrition labels when we buy food. So it's going to be a matter of time when people are going to look at, oh, okay, this toaster, how much of CO2 does it generate? How does it help me? This will be a reality. If I'm buying this laptop, how much is it going to help me in terms of CO2? This will be a reality. So it's just a matter of time when people will actually start scanning the digital labels. So to deploy the trials let us proactively engage in synergizing innovation, technology, and business practices. Because if we can engage the soft and hard levers, we will be able to basically mitigate CO2 challenges that come with that. Because the key operative word is we want to live beyond the climate change goal, all of us. That is the key operative word. Let's see if I can run a couple of videos here. Anybody have any comments, questions? I think probably any questions, comments? I've been talking for the last 50 minutes. Now it's your turn to talk.
In India, we normally, I think we are following the Euro 3 standards, and if we have to go on to Euro 4, then how much more cost will it incur for the companies, and how much?
Yeah, see, I'll add a little background to what you asked, so that everybody is on the same page. In the automotive business, we follow European standards, whether it's emissions, whether it's safety and crash. So, today we are at Bharat stage 3 in the 11 metros, and we are at Bharat stage 2 in smaller metros, smaller cities. What the government is saying is by 2010 Jan, they want to have BS4 in New Delhi. And they are talking about pulling it ahead because they're saying they want to ban diesel and all that. Blah blah goes on, but there's a lot it takes to put a BS4. It's not only the automotive ban. You have to have fuel that has so many parts per million sulfur, 50 parts per million, and the energy provider will work on that. So there's a lot that goes on. So we are actually following Euro 4 or Euro standard. So Europe is already Euro 4 as of Jan last year. We are going to hit BS4 Jan 2010. Now, to graduate from a BS3 to a BS4 is a lot of work in terms of technology, infrastructure, and that will add to the cost. That cost is X. Typically, we as automotive manufacturers don't discuss cost until close to the launch. But yes, there will be a significant delta in terms of cost to the vehicle and to the customer at the end of the day. If it's very little, we absorb it. But we are also in the business of sustaining 68,000 people in Mahindra, so we have to make the passenger cost to the customer. And not only just Mahindra, but everybody, all the automobiles. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
So we keep promoting the CNG usage, but still the government hasn't provided as many gas stations for CNG.
That is one big challenge. And if you look at the government strategy or policy now, they say we're going to kind of do the CNG on the western corridor and the north, LPG in the southern corridor, because there's a lot of LPG there. Now, the western corridor from Delhi to, I would say, almost the entire Gujarat is going to be a CNG corridor. The advantage is, yes, low emissions and more fuel economy, but it's taking time to deploy that. And so I think it's in about 2 to 3 years we will have a lot of CNG vehicles all over the country, and LPG in the southern regions of the country. I mean, if you look at what was there 5 years ago versus what is there today, a lot of platforms. In fact, the Delhi government has announced that pickup trucks, you can't deploy trucks there. So we've actually done a CNG trucks and we're selling them with partnerships. Now, the sad part is, even in a city like Bombay, we don't have, I mean, Delhi, every auto is a CNG auto. Whereas in Bombay, you still have, non-CNG. So it's not uniform yet, I agree with you.
The way the fuel prices are going up, I mean, petroleum is they're talking about $150 a barrel. It was coming down, but we never know what it will do. At what level of gasoline price does alternate fuels become more economic?
It's a very interesting question and very difficult question to ask. And even to answer this. And somebody had asked me this question. We're talking about an inflection point. What is the inflection point? The way I would answer it is a little differently. I would not worry about what the cost of crude is. Even if it's $20 a barrel, if I could come up with a solution that is cheaper than $20, that's going to be inflection point. Today, we don't have a solution that can be an option to the customer at even 150 or even 160. That is the challenge.
No, I am already committed with my car.
Right.
So for me, the inflection point is going to come 20 years from now when I am going to buy my second car. So the point is that I necessarily have to start buying fuel whatever is the price. So the question is, individually, when does the customer start making the decision to sell his car and buy something which is cheaper to run? I think that is the inflection point.
Right.
Rather than, they have the options of a hydrogen car or whatever car they will give us, but at what price am I willing to make the change as a customer?
And a lot of customers might decide, like if there is a bad transportation system in Bombay, at some point you might say, it's not worth it. I will pay the $50 and go from Gandhigiri to Nariman Point. Why should I even take my car? And that's the reason, I was talking about London congestion tax. People don't take their cars. It's a very tricky question to ask and also very difficult to answer. Today it's at 125 or so. It went to 160 and somebody says it's going to go to about $75. It's bad. Don't know. But the other way to look at it is, today we have about 1 million hybrid vehicles globally. What are the 89 or 90 million vehicles that are on the road? So if we can increase the number from 1 million to X million, then we get economies of scale. The cost of hybrid will go down. And that is sort of the endeavor. I mean, if you look at companies like Toyota and the Hondas, they have been marketing around with other manufacturers. As why don't we partner and add that volume? So if I'm doing 1 million anyway, why don't you add your 100,000? Maybe it costs $1 than $50. Yes.
I was just wondering because ultimately all these cars have to run on roads. So the question that I have is, what is the level of innovation that is happening in road laying technology? I don't know whether we have moved away from John McAdam's time. So the question that I have is, are you people as industry looking at this as an issue? Or you are saying, no, I will plan for all the potholes and make my springs sturdier?
One of the challenges that we have is urban development. And that is actually a challenge, and that is creating more problems for us. If you look at congestion, half the time we sit in traffic because the road is not wide enough and everybody is selling fruits and tomatoes as well on this road and people are walking and then we are driving. So if urban development was done right, then I would say at least 10% of or whatever X% of our problem will come down. Now, as automotive manufacturers, what we are encouraging the government to do is sort of, we lobby towards better infrastructure. Because better infrastructure is going to help us, it's going to help everybody, as customers. So today, one of the forums, somebody suggested, why don't you adopt roads? Okay, but that's not the solution. And we're going to adopt a road going from point A to point B at Mahindra. But okay, that road is going to be fine. Then Tata is going to adopt one road, and somebody else is going to adopt. Then that's all the problem. Now, the debate there is, we can do whatever we can do for urban transportation and infrastructure. But can we actually go to a public transportation system which will move more people? Can we actually go to carpooling? Can we encourage carpooling in terms of taxation? So again,
my question was, these are all public policy level issues. No, I am only wondering whether you are giving that extra push for innovation in road laying and much better infrastructure. In terms of, not in terms of actually doing it, but in terms of the technology.
we are not in that space. But what we are doing is,
I'm looking at when I'm saying you, I mean the entire automobile industry as a whole, because there doesn't seem to be anybody doing this particular thing except some infrastructure institutes in Delhi.
right, there is something called the intelligent transport systems, which we work with the infrastructure people. What that does is, we are saying when you start laying new roads, new highways, you put these GPS sensors at every half a kilometer. So if I have GPS in my vehicle when I'm driving, and I'm looking at my map, it will tell me 10 minutes away that yes, there's traffic congestion. So as a driver, I have a choice to either make a right turn or a left turn and avoid the congestion. And that sort of, those kind of things we do. So we have GPS system in the vehicle. There is GPS sensor laid in the road. So you cannot sense that. Now, how much of participation we are doing together. It's something that we'll also quite a bit. In fact, we are doing a project with the government on intelligent transportation system. And we are saying we're going to actually have, I don't remember the number right, but by August 15, we're going to launch a system. In fact, Sheila mentioned we're going to launch a system. All the work will be done before, and then she's going to have raise the curtain and everybody will applaud and all that. So we are doing stuff like that. In whatever little bit. There's a question here and I think.
I have the same question about the condition.
Okay.
My question is kind of related to what Sir mentioned. I've been in Bombay for 25 years. So the problem now there
You're a brave
is...
guy. 3 years I'm saying, what do I do?
The problem there, I think, is not infrastructure for roads, but infrastructure for households. The amount of area that is available is, I mean, people don't have place to stay. Then where do you lay new roads? And then when you have this problem, how does that affect your business and what do you do for it?
No, but that's a challenge. That's where it's urban development. We haven't thought it through. I mean, cities like Chandigarh, for example, have thought it through. There are other smaller cities that are thinking through. In Bombay, we haven't thought through. Now, you can say, okay, leave this congested Bombay here and move towards Washington. Similarly, leave this congested Bangalore here and let's move towards new airport. And I wish and I think and I hope sense will prevail among the planners to make it better. Because you can't do anything. Even to widen a road, and I live in Hawaii, from the Western Express Highway, which comes from Nasik or Thane or whatever going towards town, from that highway to IIT Hawaii, it's a mess. I can actually come in 2 hours, 2.5 hours from Nasik to Bombay. So when I get onto that road, it takes me sometimes 1 hour plus to get home. Because that road, I'll tell you what the challenge there is, it's a 35-feet road. Now, the government has sanctioned to broaden that road to about 100 feet. Now, on one side, and no offense to anybody, there is a Gurudwara there. Then there is a Ganpati temple there. There's no way you can actually get rid of that. And then everybody argues that I will move the whole establishment provided I get this much worth of land at this cost at this location. So that has taken 6 months to clear. So now that is gone. So I am hoping in 3 months we will have a wider road and it will not take me that much time. But those are realities.
Can we have a last question, please? Due to time.
So you talked about carpooling and encouraging people to use public transport. But as an auto manufacturer company, doesn't that thing goes against your favor because ultimately the number of units you would be selling would be going down?
Yeah, I also had one point which I didn't mention when Professor mentioned about holding a car or holding on to a car for 20 years. There's also a regulation that's coming that is going to forcefully ask you to scrap your car after 15 years. No. So what it's going to do also is it's going to create more opportunity for us as auto manufacturers. Plus, driving age is coming down. So if in a family there are 3 kids and you have to drive every day from one place, let's say Nariman Point to the airport, for whatever reason, you need so many cars. So it's again all that you've got to balance it. We'll take one more last question. There's some raising in that.
So Mahindra is the #1 tractor manufacturer in this country, right, sir?
Okay. Yeah.
So any of these concepts of hybrid technology or even the new green technologies, any concepts are like, do you have any plans of integrating it into the tractor?
Yes. One of my responsibilities is to look at different verticals and see where the technology gaps are and where I can horizontally deploy them. So we have actually made the first biodiesel tractor, which is B5, which is blend 5. And then we're also working on a hybrid tractor. So the advantage the hybrid tractor will have is during the day this guy can plow his land, do whatever he wants to. And then when he comes home in the evening, he can actually run it as a generator to power his house.
Because biofuels are can be more sustainable to develop biofuels in the villages.
Yes.
So tractors are more used in villages. So tractors running on biofuels could be a very good alternative.
And one of the business models we are trying to do is decentralize it. Okay? I don't need a HP station to give me biofuel. As a farmer, if I can make some biofuel every week, let's say 1 barrel or whatever, then I can use that for my tractors, I can use that for my Scorpio or whatever I own, and then every week I do that. So that way, it's sort of a self-contained model, or even for that matter in a small village, we just do that. We give the lady last call. Not many ladies ask me. That's what that was about marriage.
With the kind of competition that is present in the automobile industry and the amount of resources you guys spend on marketing, how much resources are left to spend on R&D, especially in this alternative fuel?
See, that is more based on the company by itself, plus the leadership. Let's put it that way. But to answer your question, we spend quite a bit on alternative technology. See, marketing, we have different wins. One is just R&D on conventional vehicles, conventional technology. And we have X amount we spend on advanced technologies, which could be propulsion, which could be electronics, materials, sensors, whatever. And then of course we have the marketing. So I can talk to you one-on-one rather than public. But yes, there is amount allocated on how much you spend on marketing. And again, it depends on the philosophy of the company. I want to be clear there because there are a lot of companies who have tons of money who don't want to spend anything on marketing. And that's a reality.